Hey, good afternoon, good morning, good night, good evening, wherever you are, whatever time it is for you. Welcome to Grace Church Conversations. My name is Chauncey Allman. I'm here, of course, with the pastor of Grace Church, Craig Cavanis. Craig, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. Doing really well. We're getting on a rhythm here, Chauncey. I think this is our second one in 2 weeks after we took 2 months off. So 2 in 2 weeks is that, man. It's happening.
Yeah, maybe we should go for three. Maybe do it
Yeah,
every day. Why not? Why not?
absolutely. Hey, well,
Yeah.
today's exciting because we have Caleb with us, and probably anybody who'd be watching this or listening knows that Kalib Wilkinson's a pastor at Grace Church, and so he's going to come and talk to us about a mission trip that just happened. So, Caleb, great to have you.
And I've been watching a bit. I've been watching the previous ones and learned from y'all, and excited to be a part of this conversation.
Excellent. Now, last week we had on Rob Tombrella, our last one, and his opening line. I don't know, Chauncey, if this is an exact quote, but it's pretty close to, "I am a big fan of this podcast." So, I guess that's my opening question: is, are you a big fan of this podcast? And your answer will determine the length of this interview.
Oh man,
That's right.
This is a pop quiz question. Would you like? What criteria needs to be applied?
Oh, that's terrible. The answer is yes, Caleb. That is. Can you believe that, Chauncey?
No,
He did
I
not
can't
say
do
straight
it.
up
The
yes.
fourth one was in Africa when I was in Cameroon. So like I tried watching it. So I probably should get.
That's big fan. If you tried, we have no one has ever tried to watch this in Africa. So you're a big fan. That's awesome.
Yeah, okay, he passes. I was about to say Caleb needs to run for office or something. That was a political answer.
What do you mean by big? Can we define that term?
Well, I don't want to say I'm a big fan, and you say, so what did Rob say last week? And
yeah, exactly.
I didn't watch last week, so
I love that. Hey, brother, the fact you tried to watch from Africa, that's record breaking. No one has, and no one ever will. Probably.
I might be the first and last person who watched this podcast from Africa.
Wow.
I believe.
Did you get to see the whole thing, or was it choppy, or how was it?
I barely could get a message to Marty just to say I miss you. So it was very choppy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we typically don't have anybody watching outside of Frisco, Little Elm, McKinney. So we were just thanks for the attempt from Africa. So no, I'm just teasing. We're glad to have you, Caleb.
Yeah, we can now say we have a worldwide audience. I think
that
would be accurate. Worldwide audience. Not everyone can say that.
This podcast taken Africa by storm, no question.
Oh man.
Hey, if you guys are ready, let's jump right on in. I can't wait to hear about Cameroon, and of course we heard the best part was that you listened to the podcast. You tried to.
Yeah, right.
Forget that mission stuff, man. You listen to the podcast, but I can't wait.
It's in a reach, man.
Well, Caleb, as Craig mentioned, you're one of the pastors at Grace Church. Great guy. It's been a pleasure working and knowing you for several years now, and he's just a great guy. For those of you who hadn't had the pleasure of meeting Caleb, great guy. And so there's this ministry at the church that perhaps people don't know about, the Global Missions Ministry. So can we start off by just telling us a little bit about that ministry before we get into your recent trip?
Yeah, sure. So, I think maybe it hasn't been formal, but it's always been part of Grace Church. We even in our mission statement is to make disciples who love Jesus, his people, and his world. And that's what a disciple is. That's what our church is about. And so I'd say from, its foundation, there's been a missions ministry. Since I've been here about 7 years, we have been hanging with Dave and Stacy Hare ever since I got here. They were here for a year of training when I was here. I'll tell you more about them in a bit, but that's been a big part of where we, aim at when it comes to loving the world is jumping behind them and supporting them in their endeavors to get the gospel to unreached areas of the world. So we came from another denomination, some years ago that we really partnered with them with a lot of our global missions, and ever since the COVID days, the lockdown, and we joined a different denomination. We've sort of been trying to hit reset. What does our, involvement look like in the world now that we're not part of this denomination? So in the last year, we've made big strides. One is just having the ministry your theme, learning to love cross culturally, which global missions is a big part of that pie, big piece of that pie. But we've a group of us from the church took perspectives in town. It's like this big class on global missions. It's kind of nationally or globally known. And we formed a missions committee out of it, global missions committee. So we've been meeting together probably for about a year, trying to figure out how can we be what God wants us to be, do our part in the world. And so we're just even needing to do things like define mission, study it, come up with core convictions from the Bible. And even when we land there, we're praying through how do we help our church grow a heart for the world. And then there's all kinds of needs all over the place. And we're just a one local church with limited resources. And so we got to figure out how do we use these resources to make the biggest impact for the kingdom. So that's the global missions team behind the scenes is praying through, thinking through those type of things strategically, and helping in some other ways. But yeah, they're behind the Pray for the Nations guides. The global missions team is behind the Taste of Africa and the Taste of Europe, and the coming up Taste of Asia and Taste of the Americas, and things like that. So,
well, I appreciate you commenting on that, Caleb, and I'm very grateful for your leadership and this group of folks in our church who are just so on board and so eager, have gone and, like you said, take the perspectives course, which is significant. So they've studied, you guys are meeting together, and some of the things that have already happened this year that were great. I think the prayer guide has been so wonderful, and even to use that on Sunday mornings has been great. To weekly be thinking beyond ourselves as a church and be thinking somewhere in the nation, a nation somewhere in the world that often has less of a Christian witness than we do, and so looking for places where there's need. So I just really appreciate your leadership on that. And, I just wanted to say before we ask you some more questions, I'm grateful for you because you've stirred us up as a pastoral team. Caleb came to me one time and said, "Man, I think we should read this book. It's about missions." And it was just good. It was a way to help us learn as a team, because we were kind of talking about missions, global missions, unreached people. We were talking about it kind of in different ways, and just wanted to have a common understanding. You guys were working through some stuff on the Global Missions Committee. And so we did read and study and dialogue through as a pastoral team some topics that you brought to us that you would, with the Global Missions team you guys are talking about. So that's been really helpful. And then I just want to say one more thing that I want folks in our church to know that you're gifted, you have a really heart for the world. And also in our new denomination, Trinity Fellowship Churches, Caleb leads our, we have a committee in our denomination for global missions, but that's not the name. What's the name of the committee?
Yeah, it's the same one. It's the same name as we call it here, the Global Missions Committee.
Okay, so he leads the global missions committee for our denomination. So all that we're starting to do and wanting to explore other places, and as a group of churches, even if our church didn't directly participate in some of those, like with a visit or something, he's helping all of our churches with a team of people think this through, and how can we denominationally make connections as well. So I just wanted to say he's leading a committee. He's a strong in our church. He's a strong voice on our eldership, and he is also involved in our denomination. So thanks for all that, man. I'm glad you're on our team. Glad you're in our church to help us with all that.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's a joy.
Yeah. Hey, well, we'd love to hear about the trips. You just got back from Cameroon, and from some of the things that have been spread in the church that they've heard about the trip, it sounds like it was quite an adventure, especially from the beginning. So can you just share with us a little bit about, we prayed for the team on a Sunday morning, so we saw who went. But what happened with you guys, especially early on in the trip?
Yeah, well, the adventure, started before we left DFW. Lorianne Bailey was told at the ticket counter, Turkish Airlines, that she wasn't going. She's doing like half of the teaching that we're doing for this retreat we're putting on for missionaries. the Cameroonian embassy gave her the wrong visa dates, and we didn't realize it until then. So they were saying you're not on, and so we're having to navigate. We're losing one of our members, or but with the rest of us got to get on the plane. Like the rest of us got to go through security, and so we're having to move, but also try to what do we do? And so the Lord just had us worshiping in the airport. I think usually you just assume those things and you start worshiping, praying when things get tough, but we didn't even get to go through security before we were together as a huddle praying, Lord, we need to, we're not in control here. And, just kind of repeating the mantra when things don't go the way they should. God, you make them turn for good. So let's trust you all the way through this, no matter how it goes. So I think he was up to something. I recently heard that we're never more useful to our Lord than when we're dependent, and we're never more dependent than when we're weak. And so we felt weak in DFW before we even got, we can't literally bring one of our teammates. And the Lord answered the prayer. Never seen anything like it. We're standing in line. Some of us are, I think, on the plane, and I get a call from the Turkish Airlines lady and said, hey, we called ahead. She can get on. Where is she? I didn't actually know where she was. I probably didn't tell. Quite honest. I was like, she's here. She's coming. She's going to be right there. She's going to be right here. Just wait. So I didn't know where she was. I didn't know if she was in her house. I didn't know where she was. I call her and she's in 121. Fortunately, very close. So she turned around and got on the plane somehow. Somehow got on the plane. The Lord answered prayer. So that kind of thing continued through. We got to Istanbul. We actually had 4 people on the plane and 4 people not on the plane. We had a short connection, and they're telling 4 of us that you can't get on. And so we're praying again, and then eventually we get on somehow. So we're just by the time we get to Cameroon, we're just grateful to be there.
Just glad to be there. Yeah.
Not saying anything. We need the Lord. It's 2 a.m, and we are waiting around an empty baggage carousel, and there's no more bags coming out, which means none of our bags came.
Oh,
And these have some essentials like sheets and pillows and towels and stuff like that. So anyway, we probably don't get to our hotel till 4 a.m. because we have to wait and kind of submit our reports and stuff like that. So we get to get to the hotel at 4 a.m. and without any bags. And so the next morning was a lot more adventurous because of that, because we had to go shopping in a market in Cameroon, which it's not Super Target or anything like that. It's I don't even know how to describe it. Imagine roosters and then fresh vegetables and then dry fish heads kind of like in a row, and then just a pile of clothes on a tarp, kind of on a dirt road. And I'm sure they have other shopping in Cameroon and Yaoundé, but that was the closest, most convenient. So we just picking through items to try to find the bare essentials. So anyway, we started weak, man. But then that gave us a great amount of gratitude that gelled us together, that caused us to really depend on the Lord, even for just to be there. So
Caleb, would you say that there's no bonding experience like taking a group of people into an open market underwear shopping when you have nothing, the bare essentials? That's pretty much, everybody gets to know each other real quickly then, right?
Really well. Yeah, exactly right. No, yeah. Modesty stripped. It's like going,
We're
exactly. We're done. We're pretty tight.
We're close at that point. And then so you didn't have, I mean, did some missionaries give you clothes or something like that?
Some of the missionaries there in the city just kind of donate a bunch of clothes. So we didn't have to buy all our new clothes. We got, that morning we got there, we went about 5 hours away to the village that Dave and Stacy Hare serve at. So they serve at the Bakum people in the villages that are 5 hours from the capital. And so we hit the ground. And so we didn't have time to do all the shopping. So missionaries donated. So we're wearing missionaries' clothes. We're borrowing their clothes.
Wow.
So.
And was that for the whole trip, Caleb, or just the first?
This is the first 5 days. We went to the village first, where the Hares serve at, and then we were helping them with the kind of come behind their ministry there, with their translation work, their investment in the people there. And then we came back to Capital City, where people like the Hares, missionaries like the Hares from scattered all over the country, gathered together for their one time a year sort of retreat, renewal retreat. And so by the time we got back to the city, fortunately, our bags had arrived and we were good to go.
That's good.
So what y'all do in the village? Oh, go ahead, Chauncey. Sorry.
I was just gonna say, as far as Cameroon, how did that come about in the first place? How did you guys decide on, hey, we're going to Cameroon? And of course, we know it fits in with the year-long theme of the church, but how did Cameroon come up in the first place? How did you select them?
Yeah.
Well, in some ways, like we were selected. Dave and Stacy Hare came to Dallas to, there's a big center, world-class center in Duncanville, the Wycliffe Center of Linguistics. And so after they were on the field in Africa, they came there with like their research, and they're working with a tribe that has not had a written language. There's nothing written in their language. They don't have an alphabet, anything. So they came with recordings and all that. We're trying to figure out, how do we write their alphabet? How do we teach it to them? What are there's different sounds that we don't even have letters for, that kind of thing. So they were here in the area for 2 years, and they made Grace Church their home church. And ever since then, they consider themselves members of Grace Church. This is their home church, and we love them. Absolutely. And probably for about 4 or 5 years, close to since I've been here, they've just been asking us, hey, would you send a team to help teach this renewal retreat for the missionaries? Is just imagine going to church once a year in your spoken language. Like it is significant for us. It's the only time a year we sing songs in our first language or hear a message in our first language. We're listening to YouTube for that stuff otherwise. So would you guys come and do the teaching? And Dave's kind of like basically saying, he's got to work with the other missionaries, but he's like, I think he asked us like 3 years ahead of time. Will you come in 3 years? Will you come in 2 years? And so that was during 2020. We were slotted to go, and that all got canceled because of pandemic. And then we went the following year. Craig and I and a couple more people from our church went and did that, and they asked us to come back. So we loved it. We were encouraged by them, and they seemed encouraged enough to invite us back. So we basically said, to Dave and Stacy, tell us how we can help. Tell Grace Church how we can help. We're behind. We want to be behind you guys. We love you guys. We support you guys. People know that if you've been through BBS. There's a lot of stuff on the Hares. But just tell us how we can help. And so they said, would you come do that again? And so that's how we got there again. And that's the idea, is that it'd be a long-term commitment. If you kind of imagine, that not this analogy breaks down, but imagine themselves leaving all the comfort of home and family, friends, culture, all that. They kind of imagine themselves lowering themselves into kind of a pit for Jesus' sake. They say, well, go, will you hold the rope? And we kind of look at ourselves as, we're holding the rope for you guys as long as you're there. We want to be a part of holding the rope for you guys. Love it. Yeah.
So it's kind of in 2 stages. The first section was in the village where the Hares are. The second section or stage was with the missionaries. So you were able to, serve a broader group of folks who are reaching various unreached people groups in Cameroon. Tell us a little bit about what you did in the village, and then maybe we'll talk about what you did with the missionaries as well. What happened in the village?
Yeah. Well, we got there on Saturday night, and Sunday morning we helped lead their Sunday gathering. It's in French. It might be kind of confusing. Like this, there's this unreached people. They don't have a Bible in Bakum language. Well, there's some different people groups that have moved into the nearby village, and French is kind of the common trade language. Only the educated get French, because not everyone gets school there. Maybe one kid out of a family. So anyway, they have a church there that the Hares are partnering with in French. And so anyway, we helped lead their service, gave the pastor a break. Elena Lipinski speaks Spanish and French. So she translated. We led a Bible study. Albert taught through the parable of the prodigal son, which they've never heard before. And Elena translated in French. And then I got to preach from Romans 5, and Stacy translated for that. And then we just got to be with them and share why we're there, and because we're going to be there for a few more days. I think bring some credibility to the Hares, and just like we got to tell them, hey, we're just a small representative of a church back there praying for your villages, praying for you guys to have the Bible, supporting you, cheering for you. So we're like a small sliver of a pie. There's hundreds of people back in a place called Frisco, Texas, that love you, even though we're not met, and praying for you. And so anyway, we stayed a few more days. There was various projects we did with Stacy. I mean, we did things like prayer walking or service tasks with their house, or the translation center that they've created. We had an all-day teaching on leadership with a lot of leaders from the community. They came from like 5 different villages, and they wanted to learn about biblical leadership. And that's a topic that a lot of cultures are fascinated with, but people have different versions of biblical leadership. And there's, like ours, it culturally wasn't very close to Jesus's model of leadership. So we went through some of these guys were pastors, other kind of leaders, teachers. We taught them on leadership, biblical leadership, and servant leadership. And so that it's stuff maybe we feel like there's a lot here we can learn about leadership that they haven't. So this might be the first time they've ever heard, hey, Jesus getting on his knees, wrapping the towel around his waist, washing his disciples' feet. That's a picture of leadership. They might not have ever thought about that.
Wow.
So anyway, we got to do that. That was maybe the most significant thing we did, besides just, it's so hard for us not to go and just want to accomplish something and be productive and all that. I think mostly what we did is we went and just knew Dave and Stacy's life, been in their home. They feel they're well on their own, in some ways the Lord's with them, but to be in their home, to share their burdens, to pray for what they're praying for, to, just to go and encourage them. It means the world to them. It's wind in their sails. So and there's different things that are going on. That's like, the team was aware of this, that just be yourself, be a loving community. But that village, besides Dave, which Dave and Stacy are weirdos there, for the man to carry something for his wife, or for a strong man to work with his hands and not make the children do it, is just completely countercultural. So all those little things that people, to see the men carrying the water, not the women, to see the men doing work on their knees, sweating, getting dirty, to see the women loving each other, not being like rivals, that does something. Jesus said,
wow,
you're my disciples by the way you love each other. So there's that element too.
Well, what were Caleb? I know you've been there before, and you've experienced and you work with Dave and Stacy, but what would you say some things that you learned this trip? What are some key takeaways that, maybe it's applicable at Grace Church or in your personal life? What are some key takeaways?
Yeah, a couple off the top of my head. One, the Bible's precious. Like, to see what they're doing for this people, we take it for granted but the fact is someone did it for us. Someone gave up their lives, and many people gave up their lives for us so we could have a Bible that we could read.
Yeah.
The Bible's precious. People bled, sweated, risked their lives, died for us to have it in our language. So these people don't have it in their language. So I came back with a fresh sense of gratitude. I can read God's word in my language. I can read the word of God to my children in the language they understand. So that's one. I think one of the things is we're small, and the Lord doesn't need us. The Lord doesn't need us to accomplish his global mission. In some way, we're in very, very many ways we're dispensable. However, he delights to invite us in to partner with him. Yeah. So I was freshly aware of that. I was freshly made aware, like I said earlier, that man, the Lord loves to use weakness, not strength. We came with our plans, our teaching notes, and all that. He just threw a lot of that stuff with our bags. And he just stripped a lot of that away, and yet still used us. Um, that whole idea that we're never more useful to the Lord than when we're dependent. We're never more dependent than when we're weak. That was like,
Yeah.
wow, you're right. There was some other stuff. I mean, I read a whole book on ministering and patronage cultures.
Mm.
And this is just to me why one of the big reasons for our theme is just people think of things. People are playing different games culturally. It's like you got different rules. If you go a basketball player and you go get on a football field, you're
Yeah.
going to get pretty upset when someone tackles you. But if they're football players, like that's the rules. Cultures are like that. They have different rule books and you don't know the rule books, and they're not all bad rules or good rules and whatnot. So I was learning about patronage culture, and the reality is that Westerners, we separate friendship and finances, for example. Like, don't mix those. I don't know how much money my siblings make or my friends make, and
Right.
we usually don't talk about it or expect anything. And banks give money, friendships give fun or care. There, you don't separate friendship and family and money. So and they would say it's an honor to be asked for help. It's like, wow, they respect me. They're asking for my help and financial help. So some of that was I was learning about a particular, probably not a particular culture, majority world culture operates in a patronage framework. So anyway, those are a list of things.
Wow.
Oh man. And what did you guys do with the missionaries? Can you comment on that a little bit? And I don't know if it's a different set of takeaways or if it's more of the same, but what did you do with them? And if there's anything different than what you just said, what'd you learn?
Yeah. So what we did for them is we put on kind of a retreat for them, or kind of a renewal retreat where there's teaching involved. There's small group discussion involved. It was sort of like giving a lot of them and their supporters. I want to know, what's your ministry like? What are you doing? What do we got to just give them space to tell their stories, process weariness, men processing tears, to say, have I given my last 10, 15, 20 years for nothing?
Oh man.
Just kind of like give them space for that, carry their burdens with them, give them teaching that was kind of helping them frame that. And just call them to the Lord, call them to the Lord, give them teaching give them space to abide with the Lord, I think, and encouragement to abide with the Lord. So anyways, it's very much like, we tell them, hey, what affects your souls affects your ministry. And so we're here to sort of make space for you to get cared for by the Lord for your soul. So that's going to affect your ministry. So, so part of that was a lot of listening, encouraging, knowing them so we could love them better. And there's music involved, and watching their kids, and certain hospitality, even things like coffee and whatnot. I think one of the main takeaways is that on one hand, missionaries are just like us. They're normal people. They hurt and they get discouraged and they get tired and they have issues with their spouses and their kids and their family back home. And so it doesn't take like a superhero to be missionary. They're just normal people. And they're doing some really cool stuff in the kingdom. And so in some ways they're not superheroes or normal people, but man, it's convicting. It's convicting to watch and to say, how am I, is the Bible that precious to me that I give my life up, all the comforts of North Texas up so that other people could have it? Or do I love people that much? Do I love my Savior that much? So I think it's just God's using ordinary people doing ordinary things to really do extraordinary things.
Wow. And I, want to definitely hear about what's next. This sounds like it was an exciting trip. But before we go to what's next for the ministry, I'm just curious, of all of the things that you ate, what was the most interesting thing that you ate while you were there?
That's good.
Good question. I tried to talk us in, because when we went last year, I tried to talk the team into getting a eat Viper steak. And fast food there is a little different. It's like you're at a stop sign or a speed bump, and a lady comes and holds like a, I don't know, 12-foot snake or something just by a rope. And it's like, you want it? You know, this is like your Chick-fil-A drive-thru.
Wow.
I was trying to talk them into getting it. But the gals weren't having that. So, so that didn't count, but we were close. Man, I don't know if I should. It's just like, this isn't confidential. This is going on the air. I think we might have eaten an endangered species. I just didn't ask. We just don't ask. You just say, that's meat. That's meat. And I asked Stacy at one point, what kind of meat is it? She's like, it's better not to ask. And
what's your best guess though, Caleb? What's your best guess?
I don't know if I could pronounce the thing. I know last time we had this thing called like pendulin or something like that. And we had something that tasted kind of like that, like a meat that tasted kind of like that. So I followed Stacy's cultural counsel. I didn't ask, and maybe something called a pendulin. I think it's like a big armadillo, like a big African armadillo or something.
Wow. Man, I hope you didn't eat the last one, if it's in danger.
Yeah, I know. I just don't ask. I don't want to ask what kind of meat that is.
If you wind up on National Geographic.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know. I didn't kill it.
Well, I think your conscience is clear. I think you're good.
Yeah.
What's next for you guys, Caleb? This is an exciting trip, and can't wait to hear what's next for the missions group.
Sure. And I could have said this early on when you asked, what's Grace Church Global Missions look like? I think we're discovering our place in God's global mission. I think we're still asking the question, Lord, what's Grace Church's part? Man, I feel like we're primed to be an Antioch type of church here. We're already people who love the nations. We're from the nations.
Yeah.
And we're people who are praying for the nations. And prayer isn't just preparation for the work. Prayer is the work. So I just feel like we're primed. We're resourced with gifting and experience, maturity, resources to make a dent for the kingdom. We can't do it all. We're small. We're limited. We're just one local church. But I just think we've got a part to play, and we're really discovering, God, what do you have for us? I think part of the answer is keep going with Dave and Stacy Hare and a developing team there, and so that the Bakken people can have the Bible and a church that preaches the gospel. So I think that's a clear answer. Keep going with the Hares. Keep doing everything we can to support them, encourage them. But I sense that we got another commitment or two in our capacity, and so as we've been praying through that, and we're wondering about a couple of places. One of them's Argentina, and part of this is just like, how do we? There's all kinds of needs, all kinds of places. The world's big, but what's right in front of us? Where are the opportunities right in front of us? Let's join what God's doing right in front of us. And so we have a couple from our church, Kurt and Lori Grothy, who helped pastor. He helped pastor a church in Buenos Aires in Argentina for 10, 11, 12 years, and has ended up at Grace Church as a member here, and still got a heart for Argentina. It's connected with pastors down there. He was helping train and equip them. But so I think, there's no decision yet, but actually Craig and I are going to get to go down there with Kurt in June, just to kind of go on a, vision trip, discovery trip, asking that question, Lord, what are you doing here in Argentina? And Lord, how might you use Grace Church to participate in what you're doing here? So that's one of the big ones. Mm-hmm. I would say, that might be another commitment we make. There might be another commitment in there as well. I don't know where. We're just kind of looking. Lord, lead us. There's all kinds of informal stuff going on at Grace Church. People are loving the country they're from. They're going back there. They're doing mission trips. They're giving support. They're giving teaching. We want to support those people, encourage them, strengthen them. What they're doing just naturally. That's a big part of Book of Acts. People just doing it, organically. And so that's a lot of that's going on. I think what we're doing by praying for the nations is maybe single-handedly the biggest thing we could be doing in missions, is to have a people who love the world, who pray for it. No better way. I think Spurgeon said that there's no better way for someone to love me than to pray for me. Yeah. I think that's true. And I think as we pray, our hearts will catch up to God's heart. So I think we're going to continue to pray through the nations that are represented here. and we're going to go to Argentina with that question. There's a couple other things that the church will be able to jump in on. We have we've had a taste of Europe, taste of Africa and prayer nights, but we plan to have one taste of Asia and prayer nights in May, and then one for the Americas, like North and South America, in the summer. And so that'll be a big part of just shaping our heart for the nations. It's possible, it's not firmed up yet, we might have a summer class. Well, we have a couple summer classes actually planned. I guess we'll wait to reveal them, but on learning to love cross-culturally. Some specifics on that coming. And finally, let me say we're planning to host Perspectives in the fall. Perspectives, again, is this global missions class. It's known around really the world. The Lord used in big ways to mobilize missions in local churches, missionaries going, people staying back and praying and supporting. So with several local churches in kind of Collin County, we're planning on hosting it and have Grace Church be the spot in the fall. So as a next step from learning to love cross-culturally, the ministry your theme might end, but this passion doesn't end. So that's a way you can go deeper and learn more. I think that's it. I'm trying to think of other.
No, those are great opportunities.
Great.
Caleb. And we will in the next few weeks talk about the summer classes, but I think we have two really good ones that will connect. So yeah, those are great things. And thanks for, this has been thanks for doing this. It's been an important part of our theme. I think we started the year talking about learning to love cross-culturally. We started this podcast with that theme, and we talked a lot about in our own church, how to relate with folks with whom we may not share the same background or, may be different than. How do we show love one another? And then we've talked a little bit about reaching our neighbor here in the Frisco and surrounding communities area who may be different than us. What we've not talked about as much has been, seeking to be a part of what God's doing, taking the gospel to the nations, the global missions, that sort of a thing. So even though we have folks from all over the world that we're touching the world through people in our church, but still something like what you just did. So I think this was a great emphasis for us, a big part of what we're trying this year to really be world Christians, not worldly Christians, but world Christians who have a heart for the world. And whether the world is the person who lives next door or across the globe, it's just we live in an international area, and there are just all kinds of opportunities to love cross-culturally and to be a church that reflects that. And so I think this was a big part of it this year.
Absolutely. Those things can sometimes be pitted against one another. I don't think that's a biblical deal. I think some people can say, why are you going? The nations are in our backyard. It's a wonderful opportunity for us. But thank God that the disciples didn't wait in Jerusalem until everyone was converted, or they would have never left. So it wasn't sequential, It was simultaneous. And that's what we get to do, is love one another, be in a church that's from the nations. We can love one another, and then we can be for the nations, both across the street and across the ocean. And they all sort of bleed into one another and support one another and reinforce one another if we're doing them simultaneously. So pretty exciting place to be right now.
Oh, that's awesome. You mentioned prayer. I guess the last question might be, is there any way that we could be praying as a church, folks who listen or watch this podcast? There's the two prayer opportunities coming up in May and July that will have food as well, and a culture, we'll be specifically praying for different parts of the world. We'll be praying on Sunday morning, and many folks in the church going through the prayer guide. Is there anything else we could be praying for that you would suggest to us?
I think pray for Dave and Stacy. Mm-hmm. They're doing hard work, and they need the Lord. They need, they're watering and planting. They need the Lord to make it grow, and so pray for them. I think pray that the Lord would answer that question for us as a church. What part do we have to play? We know you don't need us, but you invite us to play a part. What part do you want us to play? That He'd make that clear and give us faith for it and gratitude for it. And so those two are the kind of the ones I've mentioned. I would say this: to pray for our church to lean fully into this part part of being a disciple. We love Jesus. We love each other. We love his world. So I think pray for a growing love for his world. And I do long for that to start here, like that we'd love his world by loving one another.
Mhm.
It's almost like the ministry model is that it's an overflow of your home. You're not doing something outside of your home. That's not an overflow of your home. So pray that it starts here, that we love each other well, and then that we love our neighbors well. It's overflowing of that. And we're not trying to go do something across the ocean that we're not doing, that we're not burdened to do in our office or on our sports team or classroom or whatnot. So I just pray that it would go in that direction. It would start at home, that it would work our way out into the community. And then that's even when we do cross the ocean, it just be, we're doing something that's almost like natural for us.
Yeah. Wow.
We carry a burden with the fact that there are people in the world that they don't have anyone to tell them. You know, all who call in the name of the Lord, Romans said, shall be saved. But how will they call them unless someone tells them? How will someone tell them unless a church sends them and whatnot? So we have a burden for the world. Yeah, that's quite a few things to pray for. But
no, that's wonderful. Thank you.
That's quite a bit. Thank you, Caleb. And Caleb, before we go, I just wanted to reiterate what Craig has said. We so appreciate you and all that you do and sacrificing your time and going all the way across the ocean to serve the Lord in Cameroon and eat strange food and all the things that you do. But thank you seriously for all that you do.
Yeah, well, can I hit you back? And thanks for being a church that would send me and pray for a team, that would send a team. These guys did awesome. This team did awesome. They sacrificed. They were uncomfortable. They were flexible. They did awesome. So thanks for being a church of people who would want to go and who would want to support us and pray for us. I got so many texts, emails that said, hey, we're praying for you. We want to know how it's going. And then, so just love being a part of church that would send us and support us. And then, of course, man, this is fun for me. It's Monty and my kiddos that made it possible. So she's the one that really made it possible on my home front. So thank her. I love it, man. So.
Yeah, that's a great point. She did stay behind with the kids, and there may have been others that were there in a similar situation. So that is very true. We are grateful to you, Monty, if you're listening to this. Thanks for sacrificing any other spouses that didn't go. Thank you for sending your spouse on this trip as well, because we know there was minimally inconvenience for you, and maybe much more than that, maybe a real sacrifice involved. So thank you to each of the spouses that sent some as well. So, and this was great. Thanks for doing this, Caleb. Really, the idea, we didn't say this at the beginning, was I hope this helps you and the team, because one of the things is people want to hear about it, and we're not going to take, we've been going 40 something minutes. We're not going to take we don't really have 40 minutes in a Sunday service to do what we're doing right here. So this was just a natural communication tool to let the whole church hear about what happened on the trip. And so thanks for jumping on here and telling, and I hope it helps you guys. I know it's frustrating when we come back and people are saying, how'd it go? And you're seeing them in the hallway Sunday morning. You're like, what do I say in 20 seconds?
Right.
Now you just be able to say, hey, watch the podcast. You can find out everything there, but it was great. Whatever. Hopefully it'll help all you guys.
Watch the podcast. I'm a big fan.
Oh man.
Great.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm a big fan. Thanks for
thanks for joining. So, Craig, hey, thank you. I guess another one's in the books.
Yeah, we did. Thanks, Chauncey.
Until next time. So, on behalf of Craig and Caleb and everyone else at Grace Church, thank you for joining. We'll see you next time.